Yin Yang class. I just have the usual props ready. Hi Corinna, nice to see you. And we're going to start a little bit relaxed at the moment. See if you can bring a bolster and a blanket or a rolled up mat or two. You're going to lean your rib cage over that, and I'm going to use a couple of blocks to rest my head. So it's going to look kind of like a kind of restorative yoga pose where we're opening up the lateral flexion of the spine with the arm resting on top of the ridge line of the body. The legs might be staggered or stacked, so where you put your legs is really your preference for comfort. And you'll notice the head, my head's up quite high. I could drop the head down lower as well. Now, if I drop it down lower, that's going to give me a little more lateral bend in the spine, especially the cervical spine. So you want to adjust your head cushion to the degree that it, one, is comfortable in the neck, and two, that bottom shoulder that bottom shoulder isn't pinched off, so it's not cutting off circulation. And take that top hand and gently drop it behind your back. Dangle it behind your low back so you feel a slight tug against the top shoulder. So we have a slight twist in the spine as well as a lateral flexion. And use this time to connect with your breath. Perhaps even slow the breath down. And I'm going to recommend you breathe in through the nose. The other night I experimented taping my mouth closed so I could just breathe through the nose during the night when I fell asleep. So if you get really extreme, you can always tape your mouth closed. And notice a friend of mine recently did that, a yoga teacher, and she said when she woke up, she felt so much more refreshed from the sleep during the night. And then inhale, float that top arm up and bring it over the head and let it dangle over the head, creating new sensations in the rib cage, the neck, and the arm. And then come back to slowing the breath down and breathing through the nose. Opening up the torso of the body to start our practice tonight. Take 5 more breaths in this position. And then float that arm back along the ridge of the body. And then inhale, bring that top arm straight out in front of you and reach as far forward as you can, creating a little separation between the shoulder blade and the spine. Palm face down. Hold the core of the body steady so the weight of the arm isn't straining the low back. And then inhale, float that hand or rotate that hand so it's above the head, palm face down, stretching away from the head, palm face down. Now, start to keep the right arm or the bottom arm on the ground as you rotate onto your back a little bit and bring that arm 90 degrees back behind you. Then complete the circle, the revolution, bring the hand back along the ridge of the body. And then change sides. If you're confident with the instructions, you can turn your back on the camera. Otherwise, you can change the position of head and feet. Once again, deciding how high you want your head raised. Hips are on the floor, rib cage draped over the bolster, palm to heaven. Top arm along the ridge of the body. Adjust the legs however you want. They don't have to be the same as they were on the other side. And then start to let that right arm drape behind the back. The right shoulder starts to come back. So you feel a slight twist in the spine and the front of the shoulder and the pectoral muscle that connects to the shoulder. Feel that area starting to stretch. Slow the breath down. Breathe through the nose. And then draping that arm up over the head. And feel when it's draped over the head, the cavity, the thoracic cavity has expanded, making a little more space available on the right side of the thorax for the breath, for the lungs. You might even feel a stretch in the abdominal region. Five more breaths here. Inhale, float that arm back. Bring it along the ridge of the body. And then swivel that arm out in front of the face, reaching as far as you can. So you really feel the separation between the shoulder blade and the spine. And then rotate above the head, palm face down still. Feeling that in the shoulder joint. And then start to roll towards your top shoulder blade onto your back, keeping that left arm down. Palm flips, so the palm of the extended arm is also up. Both palms face up into that 90 or 180 degree between the arms. So hitting the shoulder joint in a whole 360 degrees, if not more, if you want to break up a spherical shape. But it feels like we've hit it in all dimensions, all directions. Rotate back to the ridge of the body. And then gently press up and remove the bolster and come to your other side, coming into Cleopatra pose. So take the arm that's under the head and bring it down in front of your body, and bring the top arm behind your head. Using the arm that's on the ground, push it down and lift yourself up and lift your legs up so you feel this oblique crunch. So we're starting to come into the strength section of the work, and then slowly come down. So the muscles we've just stretched and opened and supported now are going to work a little bit. So once again, push down with that hand, lift the head and the shoulder, that top elbow coming towards the knee and the knees coming towards the top elbow, and then come down. So plenty of work there. Stay up or down as long as you like. You can move quickly through the reps or take your time. And I'll just count the reps out as I do them. You don't have to do them at the rate or the number that I do. Just do it until you feel a satisfactory burn. All right, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 95 to go. 10, 9, 8, 7, oh, I'm feeling this. 6, 5, 4, 3, and 2, and 1, and oh, come on to your back. Bend the knees, bring the knees together, palms face up. Close your eyes for a moment and notice how the one side of the rib cage feels probably quite different than the other side. Just notice that difference from the work you created. Whew. So these muscles that we're working, these core muscles, the obliques, extremely important for stabilizing the spine. And we want the spine to be stable as we move around and do our business during the day. This is going to also support the low back in by supporting through the sides. Let's try the other side. So you've had a little taste. One side might feel very different than the other. So the bottom arm comes down, palm face down. That's going to support you to lift you up. The other hand stays behind the head, and then you lift your legs and you bring the elbow towards the knee. So you feel this on the other side. So we won't go through as many demos this time. We'll just go straight into it. Remember, work at your pace. 1. And your pace could be quite different from mine. 2. I'm going slower this time, so I'll probably do less reps. 3. 4. 5. Obviously, the closer you bring the elbow to the knees, the more extreme it becomes. See, I've already lost count. Yay. That's what happens when blood goes to the large muscle groups, moves away from the frontal cortex of the brain, and you can't think anymore, you can't count. You can just feel. So it's all about feeling. I'm going to do 3 more. 1, 2, and 3. Coming onto the back. Knees together. Teepee pose. So teepee pose, knees together, feet apart, creating a little triangle. Feet are flat on the mat, which probably means they're slightly pigeon-toed. Shoulders away from the ears. And feeling the aliveness you've generated in the core of the body, the strength you've built as we let go into teepee pose. Now remember, teepee pose appears very innocuous. It appears like not much is happening. But in fact, The low back is being released of a rather intense pressure in TP pose. And that intense pressure is the tightness of the psoas muscle, which gets very tight through sitting, climbing steps, riding a bike. So by bringing the knees together, the low back sinking or settling into the mat, the psoas muscle starts to release its tightness. It's not necessarily stretching it, it's taking the contraction out of it, it's letting it settle and relax. Breathing through the nose, using this time as recovery before our next yang exercise. And make sure you have a block handy or a bolster handy for not the next exercise, but the exercise later. And then bring the knees apart. Walk the feet a little closer towards your hip bones. Lift the toes so you arch the feet, activate the feet. Press down through the heel bone, and as you press down, inhale, lift the pelvis up off the ground, and then exhale, come down. So we're going to do 10 of these bridge lifts. Inhaling as you lift, exhaling as you come down. Again, the speed in which you do them is up to you. What I'd like to see you do each time is get a little bit higher, so you're feeling the range of motion, you're feeling the activation of the glutes, squeezing the hamstrings, lifting up, the low back working. So you're working a lot of the back of the core here. Now the next time you come up, we're going to pause and hold the bridge. For 3 minutes. So for 3 minutes is a long time. So a couple of things. One is, at any time, if it gets too much, take your block and bring it under the buttocks and rest into a supported back bend. Or two, come back down to the ground and pulse up and down. Watch the fact that after a period of time, your buttocks is going to start to sink towards the ground. So keep activating and lifting. So you're adding the posterior chain strengthening. Some of you might like to walk your shoulders a little closer towards the heel bones, and that way you're going to lift up a little taller. You'll feel this stretch in the hip flexors, and you'll be working a little harder. Make sure you continue to breathe in this bridge pose. So we're about halfway through. Focus on your breathing if you can, remembering you have the options to come down or support yourself with a block or a bolster or a rolled up blanket. All right, so we're coming into the last minute. Now in the last minute, I'm going to invite you to go even a little higher. One way to do that is to walk the feet back, lift the heel bones, and wrap your fingers around the shins. And then start to press the heels back down to the mat. So now we're coming into a little more extreme bridge, bound bridge. So it's taken it to another level. And remembering you can work in either direction, either becoming a little more challenging or easing off, listening to your body. Pressing down through the heel bones as much as you can. For 5 more breaths if you can. And when you come out, release, let the shoulder blades come apart. And gently pick the knees up. Hold the knees. Let the back flatten on the ground. Rock from side to side. Extend the left leg out. Let the left leg come down to the floor. Keep holding the right knee. Just letting go of that bridge pose. Curl the toes back on both feet. Push out through the left heel a little more so you feel a stretch in the back of that left leg. Squeeze the right knee a little bit more. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, lift the head and the shoulders up and try to bring your nose towards that right knee. Continue breathing. So you're using the abdominals now, so we're coming more to the front of the body. And then if you can, lift the left heel 2 inches off the ground. Keep extending through the left leg. If the back of your neck hurts, bring the left hand to the back of the neck and the right hand can hold the knee. Exhale, slowly lower everything back to the ground. Keep that right knee bent, right foot on the floor. And then bring that right foot against the extended left thigh. Come into tree pose on your back. Right knee out to the side. If the right knee doesn't feel comfortable, take a block and simply prop up the right knee if that right hip opening doesn't feel comfortable. Let the breathing slow down. And as deeply as you can, relax the body with each exhale. So this is a very powerful way to recover between exercises, is to slow the breath down and literally relax the whole body. So you're taking all that muscular effort, all that contraction, and then you're deeply relaxing it. This accelerates the recovery rate for the muscles, for the heartbeat, and for the lungs. And as you relax and focus on the breath, it keeps your attention in this instance rather than anticipating the future or recalling the past. One more minute here in tree pose. Keep letting go. Two more breaths. And then release that right leg out. And then bend the left knee and grab hold of the left leg, either the back of the thigh or the knee, and squeeze towards the left shoulder. Activate the right leg, spread the toes, push through the right heel so the right leg is active. It's not just limp. Squeeze that left knee a little more, start to feel the release in the left glute. Become aware of the breath. Take a deeper breath in, and as you exhale, lift the head, lift the shoulders, bring the nose towards the knee. So you start to feel the abdominals working here. You can support the back of the head with your right hand anytime you feel that would be helpful, so you don't strain the neck. That's also going to add a load to the abdominals, so it's not a cop-out. Then start to lift that right heel a couple of inches off the ground. And then focus on the breathing here. The breathing, and also keeping the low back really grounded. So you don't want to be arching the low back here. You want to feel that low back grounded. 5 more breaths if you can. And then supporting the head as you lower it back to the ground. Let that left foot come to the ground, and then the left foot into that right extended leg. Bring the hands beside you into tree pose. Now the low back is arching at this point, so the spine is changing its orientation. If that left knee is pulling on the left hip too much, consider supporting it with a towel or a blanket or block. Using this 3 minutes in tree pose to release the tension in the hip. Sometimes creating a little mantra. A little mantra in English, unless you know it in a different language. It simply says, relax the left hip even more. Relax the left hip even more. So as you say that and become aware of the left hip, you can feel it let go with each chant of the mantra. Let go even more. Five more breaths here in tree pose. And when you're ready, release that left leg. The next yang exercise you can do in a couple of ways. Bend the knees, have the feet flat on the floor. Now you can use a rolled up blanket if you like, or a fairly thick blanket. I don't know if you can see how thick I've made that. That's fairly thick. I'm going to use my hands, so I create a diamond shape with my hands, the pointer fingers touching and the thumbs touching. I lift my pelvis and then I put that hand formation underneath and I sit on my hands. Now this might get a little intense for the hands, so you may or may not want to do that with the hands. So it's not a high lift with the hands, but it lifts the pelvis up just a fraction off the mat. So I'm sitting on my hands, and then I bend both knees. I curl both knees. I tuck the tailbone. I take a breath in, tuck the tailbone, and then as I exhale, I extend the left leg out and lift the right leg up. And then I bend the knees again. Take a breath in, hold the breath, tuck the tailbone, lift the tailbone, and as you exhale, extend the left leg up and the right leg out. Inhale, bend. Take a recovery breath. Take a breath in, hold the breath, lift the tailbone, exhale, extend the right up, the left out. Until you're completely empty, and then bend both. Take a recovery breath. And on the next breath, inhale, hold the breath. Lift the tailbone, and as you exhale, left leg up, right leg out. Until you're completely empty, and then bend. Recovery breath. Inhale, hold. Lift the tailbone, exhale, right to heaven, left out. Inhale, bend. Recovery breath. Inhale, hold. Lift the tailbone, exhale, left up, right out. Till you're completely empty. Inhale, back together. Recovery breath. Inhale, hold. Lift the tailbone, exhale, right up, left out. Till you're completely empty. Then inhale, bending the knees. Recovery breath. Inhale, hold. Lift the tailbone, exhale, left up, right out. Inhale, bend. Recovery breath. Inhale, hold. Lift the tailbone, exhale, right up, left out. Alternating the scissor kick. Then as you inhale, bring them back together, bent. Recovery breath. One more each side. In your own time. Exhale, release. Oh, hello, hip flexors and core. Whew, abdominals. Roll over to one side, come onto your belly. We're going to stretch all that part of the body out now. Yum, yum, yum. Yay. Let's come into crocodile pose. Support the forehead with stacked hands, elbows out, feet wide, Charlie Chaplin. And feel that initial stretch on all those muscles you've just been working. So the abdominal stretch, the hip flexor stretch. Let the body sink into the earth. Bring the elbows a little further away so you can really relax. Take all the pressure off. Feel the breath naturally Coming to the diaphragmatic movement. Belly against the earth. Each inhale, you feel the expansion. Remember to breathe in through the nose. So we worked fairly hard tonight with the core of the body. A little more yang than we're used to. So let's make this last, well, not the last stretch, but this back bend really luxurious. When you feel ready to increase the stretch, bring the elbows underneath the shoulders so that the hands can reach the upper arms. And my favorite here is to have a block to rest the head on. So it's Sphinx pose in a very yin, surrendered, relaxed fashion. The arms, the shoulders are all relaxed, the torso, the head, the neck. And the stretch is happening by itself, simply from the shape you've created through the abdominals. If for any reason your back isn't appreciating this, you can always come back to crocodile or even curl up onto your side body into fetal pose. Now we've still got 2 minutes remaining, so there's plenty of time to consider coming into the next level, seal pose. It might be something you'd like to do. You might be totally happy right here in Sphinx, or you might want to come down to crocodile. But for a little more stretch after all that work, remove the block, bring the hands to the edges of the mat, fingers point outwards, thumbs point straight ahead, elbows are out a little wider than shoulders, and then start to straighten the arms. And this is going to create new stretch, deeper stretch from the knees, the inside of the knees, up into the groin, into the hip flexor area, in through the abdominals. And that stretch radiates out through the arms and the legs. Try to keep the head as neutral or comfortable as you can, whatever that means for you. There's plenty of time to remain here or return to the previous poses. I'm going to walk my hands a little closer in to the body to create a deeper back bend, only because that abdominal work feels so good. Really stretching out through the front body now. Always gauging if the pose is appropriate, and that would be from the sensations you're feeling, not too intense, from the capacity to breathe gently and slowly, and the capacity to relax as much as you can. 3 more breaths here. And then slowly come down, stacking the hands under the head. Crocodile pose. Walk the knees and the feet back together and bend the knees, point and flex the feet, windshield wiper the feet, and then rotate the feet. And then come onto your back. Cross the right knee over the left knee. Create a little flopping action here. Let that low back release after that back bend. The flopping helps. The flopping helps massage that low back as you flop. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and stop the flop. Push down with that left foot, lift the pelvis and rotate the pelvis to the left. And adjust your arms. I like to have my arms about 90 degrees out from the torso, but you might like them in different positions. Some people like them above the head, some people below the 90-degree. Explore your arm position. They don't have to be symmetrical with the body. And notice how a twist feels after all that core strength work. So we've really stabilized the spine before we've created the stretch tonight. And that kind of work can really feel very different than when we come into a classic yin, into a cool body. On the next inhale, gently release that pose. And take a moment to pause between sides. Notice the contrast. And then left over right, begin to flop. We flop for about a minute. Once again, massaging that low back as you flop. The vibration of the flop pulsing through the leg bones into the hip, into the spine. I think I've mentioned it before, but I'd like to experiment sometime and just flop for about 5 minutes and see what happens. I think I'll do that alone first, make sure it's not unleashing anything that we aren't ready for. And then pause. Just feel the absence of flopping for a moment. And then press down through that right foot, tilt the pelvis to the other side, to the right. Oof. And then find your arm position on this side. It might be different from the other side. That's okay. Getting to know ourselves. Once again, I'm feeling a stability here in this twist that I often don't feel because we've been doing that core strength work. Kind of feels good. Five more breaths here. On the fifth exhale, come onto your back and consider how you'd like to spend your time in Shavasana. You can come back to TP pose, knees together, feet apart. If your low back is needing support. You could bring the soles of the feet together, knees out into butterfly pose, with or without supports under the knees. Or you could extend the legs into the traditional Shavasana. You could also bring a bolster under the thighs. So, once again, really following the wisdom, the requests from your own body that would make this practice feel more complete for you. tune into your body and decide if you want to remain longer in Shavasana or not. If you're transitioning, gently bring the feet to the mat. Clasp the hands together and rub the heel palms vigorously together to create a very warm friction on the heels of the hands. And then when it's very warm, release it and cover your eyelids. Let the warmth soak into the eyelids, the eyebrows, and into the eyes. Just appreciating all the work the eyes do for us during the day. And then in the next 5 or 6 breaths, make your way over to your side body and come to a seated conclusion. Plenty of time. You might like to sit on a blanket or a block. As you find your posture in that seated position, just appreciate how the core strengthening work really supports posture, makes posture a little more effortless. Bring the hands together in prayer at the chest. Let the head bow in gratitude for each other. Namaste. Thank you, folks. Lovely to have you.